Welcome to the 2-Month Review, the weekly podcast brought to you by Open Letter and 3%, in which we take one giant book, break it down bit by bit, section by section, read it, talk about it, analyze it, have fun, make jokes. This season, our 10th season, is all about Ducks Newburyport by Lucy Ellmann. And we are joined. Welcome to the 2-Month Review, the weekly Chad books. And I'm joined as always by Brian Wood, author of Joytime Killbox. We're doing this together today. For anyone watching, we're in the same room. And we are joined with special guest, Patrick Smith.
Hello.
How are you doing, Patrick?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Good, I think. It took me a second. I didn't realize my sound was on the YouTube, so that delay was my fault. That it was rebroadcasting ourselves laughing at you as we started going. Yep. So Duck Newburyport. Well, I have some questions for you, Patrick, but just to frame this, we are going to be talking about pages 487 through 526 today. It's a nice little section, a section that basically broke me for a variety of reasons. I hope that's the section you read, Patrick, although if not, that's cool too.
I read past that. So I've read everything, but the thing that I just spent a little bit of time reviewing is not that section.
That's what I kind of...
It'll be fun.
Yeah, so you're farther ahead.
All right.
So anyway,
yes,
so Patrick,
it's all good.
How are things in Vermont?
They're good. Vermont is good right now. I mean, winter has come and won't leave until April, but you know, we're here. We're doing the thing. Vermont's in this book a bunch, kind of, which I like.
Yeah, bread loaf.
Yeah, and just random Vermont reference. I mean, she just says Vermont a few times. New England also. I'll just dive in. Today I was reading in the coffee shops, and the new barista. The what? And
there's a guy with a man bun.
He did not have a man bun, but the new barista asked if he could interrupt me to ask about the book, and his reason was that he is from Newburyport, Massachusetts, and was like, I don't get why it's called that. Like he's been thinking about buying it, but he's like, I don't know like what the deal is. I don't get why it's called Newburyport. She's from Ohio. Like I don't. And I was like, well, there is a Newburyport connection, and in general, I've kind of liked the Massachusetts and Vermont content. I'm a New Englander, so it's fun when things come here.
There's quite a bit of it. So do you want to explain the Ducks Newburyport title?
No, I barely remember. It's in this section. That her mother's from Newburyport. Her mother grew up in Newburyport, so she has the Massachusetts connection to it. I really wish I had the section correct, because I read there's a kind of a time gap between my two. My dog needs water. I'll be right back. He's slapping his bowl.
That's fine. Just for other folks that aren't watching this live, Chad and I are together in the same frame, and in order to be in the same shot, our thighs are literally rubbing against each other. We're really close.
We are rubbing thighs right now to be in the shot.
I don't think that's unusual for either of you.
Probably
but
not.
no, so yeah, her mother's from Massachusetts and Newburyport. I forget the exact reason for the Ducks part of it.
Isn't it so? Now I'm trying to find it, but she was in the water, was swimming and started to drown, and her sister saved her. Yeah, so Mommy was about 2 when she walked straight in the pond saying "ducky, ducky, ducky," and Abby rescued her. So I assume that's what it was from.
Okay.
Which, Chad, why did you sumac right before that?
You know why I circled sumac?
Why?
Is it because I had to buy it for a recipe and I had no fucking idea what it was, and I bought it and I was like, "What is sumac?" And I assume it's like a tree or something.
No, it's a delicious spice.
Yeah, but what?
It's usually from Turkey.
It's a It's a tree, because there's poison sumac and there's 2 different colors, I think.
Okay, I use it. It's a spice.
Yeah, I have it right over there.
My recipe for turkey that I'm making has sumac and a spice rub. So
that's exactly.
I saw that you circled that. I'm like, why did you circle sumac?
Because it came up like last week, and then it came up again in this book. Everything that happens in my life comes up in this book.
Well, it's constantly, all of the time.
It's a lot though. Like it's a lot. Like even so far as this, like on page 492, the fact that I can never read WAPO articles online now because you have to subscribe happened to me the other day. I went to read something and it was like, no, you are blocked because you don't subscribe. And I was like, God, fuck you, Washington Post.
Have you noticed how terrible?
Yeah,
when you go online for any kind of news, they have the most they're worse than pornography now. Like the pop-up ads, the subscribe buttons, the whatever. There's like 8 buttons that are going to pop up to read because you already clicked a stupid clickbait article. It's a dumb article anyways.
Whitelist us.
Yeah.
Always whitelisting.
I've discovered that for whatever reason, the read function, like the read only on your phone, often gets you past when you're blocked by, like New York Times, I was past my free articles thing. But if I click like read only, it works. It's really lovely. I've started to get a lot more free content.
I don't know how to use.
I don't either.
These newfangled devices.
Okay, I'm extremely bad at technology. My phone automatically goes to it now, and it's very annoying, except when it's bypassing the free article limit.
I ended up paying for the New York Times because I kept complaining about not being able to get on there, and someone's like, "Dude, just subscribe." And you can just like shut up about it. It was like, oh yeah.
It's like $11.
But the only times I'm annoyed that I can't read something are when it's something I would hate anyways. Like I'm reading something to be mad about it, and then I can't, and I feel better.
Authors.
The what?
Reading about YA authors.
Yeah, yes, I should do more of that. It's very good for my mental and emotional health to read about YA authors being pissed off.
It's 100% definitely not good for your health.
No, they can't stay out of the news.
Yeah, that's sarcasm, Chad.
The new one today with the ex-our mayor.
Yeah, he's got a story.
Did you read that one?
The what?
She's like up for like wire fraud and all sorts of stuff with like lying and stealing with her YA book that she published. And she mentioned
that's awesome.
Yeah, she had mentioned something about I think she listed like she made like 36 grand or like 30 grand on it, and like it was actually 300 grand. Like she was like double selling it. Like it's just some super shady, terrible stuff. I'm gonna take a leap. Like these YA are the worst.
They really are.
They truly are.
The Young People's Literature winner of the National Book Award is someone named Martin Sandler. And the winner of the Translated Book Award is, again, another New Directions book, Baron Weckheim's Homecoming by Laszlo Krasznahorkai.
Yeah, well, I don't think we can complain about that one.
Well,
even if it is New Directions again.
I talked to Tom Robert in person at Alta, and he told me face-to-face that Laszlo was a genius.
Yeah.
So, hey, man, they picked a genius. You can't go wrong with that.
Oh, God, my phone fell. He won the Best Translated Book Award twice. And
yeah,
I have feelings about how good that award is.
Yeah. You know, they're catching up.
Which, in a weird kind of way,
they are catching up.
Yeah, there is an interesting compare and contrast you could do with Laszlo's one-sentence book versus this one-sentence book. We'll probably get to when we finish.
So
go ahead.
The part of the conversation I had with the barista today, you asked about this book and wanted my take on it. Why is that so funny?
I don't know. Just because we just loop back to your barista from like 10 minutes ago. This is the most random episode of this.
I'm trying to bring it back to the book.
Super hip. Keep going.
So I put it. It's one sentence, but it's not a very difficult sentence. Like you never. People have talked. I've heard on the podcast and on Twitter, fans of the book say how readable it is, how compelling they find it, how easy it is to just go.
Agree.
And I don't quite have that, and I think that has more to do with how weak my reading brain is lately, my focus brain. But it's also not difficult. Like it at no point are you struggling to follow her thoughts, even if you need breaks, even if you're only doing a little bit at a time. Following her this one long sentence is not hard, and there are not very many words you've never heard before. There's not clauses where you're like realizing that it's not Henry James where this clause references this clause 7 clauses ago, way up the page and on this sentence. Like it's constant presence. You're following what is happening right then. And yes, there's a lot of complicated structural stuff all over the place, like insanely complicated structural stuff. In terms of following the sentence and following the logic and following whatever, it's very easy. So that was part of my pitch to him today, and then also the fact that it's a fucking hysterical book about everything that makes us terrified and anxious right now.
This section in particular,
terrified and anxious right
now. This section in particular was really felt like everything was starting to fall apart a lot faster. That like up until now, like a lot of the narrator's voice was like more controlled and more like talking about these issues that would cause anxiety. Like we did the episode of like ranking the anxieties or whatever, grading them. And like that was that they're very like clear and they're there, but this one seemed to fall much more apart. And like there are various even like one lines in here that just like devastated me. And like then there's parts where I feel like her language really slips and gets into like almost Finnegan's Wakey territory of like just association versus like where it was very, very tight before. And it usually revolved around death. Like anything that revolved around death seemed to like go off into a new sort of pattern. That seemed much.
I didn't notice that part, the death part in particular. I like that.
The death part was like what last night I was just like, oh, I don't feel very good about myself, and like this is not fun. this part of reading this is like beating me over the head. I find the one in particular.
I'm still always finding it fun in a weird way. You guys addressed one of the elements that I really wanted to talk about that makes it not this part's not fun, but it's nice. That this is a book about how shitty and awful and scary the world is, but it's not a book that makes every single person you meet that. You know, like I think 2 episodes ago, you guys started to discuss her relationship with her husband, Leo, who's a good guy, who's maybe still, I don't know. He's a good guy. He's kind, and her family's good. She loves her family. Like, yeah, Stacy hates her, but like, Stacy's a teenage girl. Like, she hates a lot of things that she might eventually realize.
I know girls, yeah. I've been told like, a lot of things I hate. I've learned a lot of
Yes, and it's kind of fine. It's painful and it hurts, but it's also just part of normal life. And I feel like so many books that we read lately, or in movies and whatever, they like everything wants to be dark to show how dark and bad the world is. And in those things, every aspect of it is dark and cruel and over the top. Whereas this is being like, hey, you know, you can address every aspect of how awful our current situation is, while still being like, you know, there are people we love, there are good things, there is support, there is these things. It's not all darkness all of the time. You can talk about both. You can have like this nice, emotionally supportive family and book and whatever, while still being like, yeah, men want to kill all of the time. Like everything's bad. Yeah, but Leo's worst. And there's a line. This may be past where we're supposed to be, but there's a line where she's like, she's talking about Leo. So it is past. I'm just going to do it. The fact that Leo mocks me for it, saying it makes me sound like a real farmer, which I'm not. The fact that men just aren't happy unless there's something to mock. Like she gives Leo this all men trait, while still really protecting him from the dark, bad shit.
Yeah. That is in the section. I think we spoke earlier. We were up to 562, not 526 is what I said.
Okay, then we're fine. Yeah, then we're all set. That is where I went. Okay, we're perfect. So yeah, that's in this. So like that idea that like she's able to talk honestly about all of the garbage of the world while still, you know, recognizing what goodness there is and taking something from it without it being, you know, some positive over the top bullshit spiel.
Yeah, the one that like the parts that started hitting me with this were particularly on like 504, where it's like the fact that I just realized that when this monologue in my head finally stops, I'll be dead, or at least unconscious, vegetable or something. The fact that there are 7.5 billion people in this world, And so there must be 7.5 billion of these internal monologues going on, apart from all the unconscious people. The fact that that's 7.5 billion people worrying about their kids or their moms or both, as well as taxes and windowsills and medical bills, shut in, shut out, dugout, bullpen. The fact that that's not counting the multiple personality people who must have several internal monologues going on at once, several each monologues, monologue, on. But that like the monologue ending will be dead part was like one of the like, oh, I don't feel great, and this is not
no
this is not
so
helping.
You
like
picked the part that said dugout and bullpen. Chad, you're the worst. You're absolutely you forced baseball into everything.
Just slid it in there. Just put it right in. Just bullpen.
I guess while we're on baseball, I'm just gonna say I put this out on Twitter. If any Houston Astro fans need to commiserate or just get some emotional healing or whatever, and they need a Patriot fan to talk to who knows how to rationalize cheating to win, come talk to me. I'm open.
Man, I'm gonna segue from your talk about the Patriots into another of my favorite lines on 507. The fact that a dab is a dance move based on hiding a sneeze or sort of catching one with your elbow when you're too busy to get a Kleenex, busy dancing. Dance move. Like my old Carolina Panthers team when they were good.
No, but to jump back in what Petter was saying, like any other, I think most writers would have wanted to talk about this dark, scary, terrible shit in the world we're in, would want to have a narrator that's going to be maybe a little more edgy, a little more vulgar, a little more dark.
Yeah.
And to me, the thing that keeps working so well is how kind of optimistic and cheery, and I'm trying to be the right kind of Midwestern housewife vibe that she keeps using, like saying Djibouti versus just saying fuck it, or you know what I mean, like
yeah.
I think that
and that
writer would have dipped into that, and it wouldn't work as well as the way this narrator uses that kind of positive silver, like always tries to have a silver lining with everything, makes the dread that much more worse.
So yeah, I have two things that relate to that are both quotes. One is so that there's a part in here where I'll find it, but yeah, on page 496 where I feel like it's like one of the big times that she like starts to have a breakdown, and loses that. So at the bottom of that page, the fact that I really shouldn't drink. The fact that what was I freaking out about? The fact that it was just about the PTA. The fact that I don't even know how it started. The fact that I think I got annoyed when the kids didn't finish what was on their plates, because that always makes me mad. The fact that after they left the table, Leo and I said I was acting nuts. And then I did go nuts, all because I didn't like them saying I was acting nuts. The fact that, well, nobody wants to be told that they're nuts, but still the fact that I didn't know what got into me. I don't know, wine, Knights of Columbus, nuts of Columbus, nut allergies, allergens. But then on 514, I believe this is where she's talking about she's gone into into Stacy's room and found the sex ed book or whatever it is. And there's a section that this is the moment where I was like, this is where this is really starting to like the language is starting to crack.
Who still reads books?
Nobody.
Okay.
Nobody cares. But towards the bottom of 514, it just starts going on this run. Prince Albert with his, jewelry, adornments, the fact that ancient Babylon of all places, creditor debit, butt cracks, the fact that this pamphlet thing really covers a lot of ground, chains, leather, stump, stalk, ream, peolia, herpes simplex and complex, vaginissimus, I mispronounced that. The fact that it's kind of like a sex guide written by David Attenborough. The fact that it's that to get to the Lilium phallopia, you nymphofacto push past sprays of spermatozoa adorning banks of chastity beltia, culminating in a flop sweat jettison at the summit of the Mons Veneris and a naughty, nasty, naster tummy worshipy Georgium Porgium Orgium of velvet chasms breast, chest clefts, quest, primp, pimp, plump, plump, clump, enter, engender, copulate, populate, propagate, pajingo, fajj, the meaning of life, and Amelia Earhart. And that part is like one where like
so Ulysses
fucking just absolutely broke into that. And it felt like the point where like her control is fractured now, or it's not as complete as it was. And I can imagine like during a day, like if this is like a day, that morning you're like, yeah, I'm good. And then you're like, oh fuck.
Yeah. I break down the day goes, like I start being like, hey, I'm gonna kick today's ass, and at the end of the night I'm like, I just want to drink some beers and like not die. Like that's my goal right now.
This section has a lot of the not dying part too, because it has a lot about her mom dying and a lot about her.
It's a serious accomplishment to not die. I mean, make it through a day not dying, like did at least one thing right.
Well, she even mentioned how fragile the life expectancy is of human beings in this.
Well, yeah. I mean, she's all about fragility, and it's part of that Midwestern niceness. This her endeavor to be good and clean is while addressing all of this crap, is that she's deeply insecure, but it comes from this place of kindness and compassion. You know, there are these little moments when we actually step outside her a little bit and see how she treats her family and see how she cares for them. I mean, this section has a lot of that, the chicken soup stuff. You know, we see how she really strives for them. Her worry that Stacy hates her. Like, you don't worry that much about your kid hating you unless, like, all you're doing is trying to love your kid. And it's constant. She sees this in herself, and then she doesn't know if she can extrapolate. And she's on discussing other people a lot on 593.
That's way back.
That's fine. Hit it.
I don't know what we're doing anymore. The fact that, that was a 2 cups of coffee meltdown, downward spiral, dirty dishes, dollars for donuts, Kleenex. The fact that other people cry all the time and then just buck up and you never know anything about it. The fact that we all just plow on pretending we feel all right. To me, she's actually asking. It's part rhetorical because of course we do, but she actually is sincerely like not knowing if other people feel the way she does, if other people suffer the way she does, if other people have these worries. She legit doesn't want to think she's special for having these worries, but also doesn't want to think other people are as weak as she is, even though it's not weakness, it's just being a human in this little world.
Yeah, it's very easy to be anxious as a parent too.
Yes.
And that shows up.
I imagine
somewhere up here too, where she's like, I don't want to imagine the fact that my kids are going to be dead one day. And where is that? But it's real. It's another one that I was just like, oh, okay, I think I'm good tonight. I don't think I can read this anymore.
Because my wife is more anxious. We have a 4-year-old daughter, and my wife is much more anxious than I am, and I feel like I'm kind of an anxious person. So I don't know if it's like the connection of like you carry the child, you deliver the child, like you have a better connection with the child. Like you gave them life, and so you're more like, I would like to think I'm concerned with my child's life as much as my wife is, but no, she's more
no.
She's more worried. She's more in tune than I am, and I feel like I'm really sensitive.
I think sometimes if you're just kind of neurotically anxious about lots of small things, big things, you're just like, fuck it, it's fine. Like I know I can deal. I don't have kids, but I've had that thing where like friends or you know, close people to me who are less anxious overall freak out about a real thing, and I'm like, whatever. Like I'm used to being anxious about nothing forever. Like I can handle this actual thing.
Yeah, there's the part with the kids part was on 528. The fact that I can't bear to think that my kids must die. Not now, but someday. The fact that no, that is not going to happen. Not on my watch. No, Sri Bobby Kennedy, Bobby Sue from my class. And there's another part that like I can't remember where it is now, where it's like, you know, eventually everyone dies, and
if your last name's Kennedy,
you're just screwed. But there's a part that's like essentially like no matter what, this is going to happen. The worst thing that could possibly happen, that you disappear off the face of the earth. The fact that the worst thing that can happen happens every time, eventually to everybody. And so like that the stark existentialism of this section starts to come through, and really, I don't know, it sort of molds like her anxiety for me in a way that it's more than just like fretting about things, but there is like the weighty philosophical part to like the fears that a lot of us or all of us have in various ways.
It connects really well with the juxtaposition to the lioness and the cubs.
Jesus, yeah.
Because in this section, it's bookended with them getting closer and closer to man and man's stinky machines and
almost killing a woman.
Yeah, like the disruption, like they're getting closer to humankind, and then the anxiety in our narrator is ramping up with that at the same time.
So I'm assuming that I'm going to be wrong about this, but I'm going to say this anyways. What if these two things collided, where at some point our narrator walks outside and the mountain lion eats her, and that's the last page of the book?
So that's funny, but also when she says the part you quoted earlier, how this monologue it just has to end in her death. You're like, okay, so does the book end with just the monologue breaking for us, but we know the monologue continues because it can't end until she's dead? Or does this book end with her dying? I don't think it does, but that line made you have to consider that, you know, on some level. That line was like, okay, is she gonna die? And also the mountain lion stuff, it's probably the part of this book that makes me feel the dumbest, because there's little I can do besides draw really, really obvious connections. Like, okay, a mother protecting her cubs. Like, I get how that connects to the narrative. It's about nature. I get how that connects to the narrative. Mm-hmm. There was a brief point when I think it was, again, the last episode, you guys were talking about dreams cropping up a lot. So dreams started... The what?
There's so many in this section.
But the mountain lion sections start to have dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was like, okay, so all of the connections I'm drawing between like the main chunk of the book and the mountain lion stuff is really, really simple and like really plain. And I'm like, I know this book is so brilliant and Lucy is so brilliant that I know it's more than that, but I can't get there. So I'm just a moron.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see how it all comes up at the end, like in terms of like the mountain lion parts, because it does seem like a sort of obvious parallel, but like I don't know that that's bad. Like I don't know that that's like that. Maybe it doesn't have to be more than that. That the parallel there is like, because it's succinct. It's only in sentences. All those sections are like a page, and they're covering almost the same ground in a way of like these people hunt things. There's the machines that could kill you. Like those main things are so built into the system and into the mountain lion's perspective. And then her part is like expansion of that into like all the human worrying about it and the human anticipation and the awareness that we can like think about things and use words, but we use words in a way that like causes us to continue like breaking this down and rerunning it and rerunning it and rerunning it. And the mountain lion's like more moving on.
I like that, because there's a line that just passed that I underlined where she addresses like, do animals worry about this crap? And then later, I mean, besides the fact that we see in the mountain lion sections that the animals do actually worry about this. The fact that animals don't treat life like it's a nightmare. When she says that, we automatically have to go to the line sections and be like, okay, is life a nightmare here? Is it not?
Yeah.
And I don't feel like looking for it, but there's a later line where she seems to start to be like, oh no, wait a minute, maybe animals do actually stress these things in some way.
Yeah. It's interesting. This section also has a lot of like marriage things in it. Of like both like the appreciation, which is like, when I was little, I couldn't understand how married people stayed together, and I don't see how they can be apart. And then there's a line of like, is it wrong to think that you're with the wrong person? It's like there's something to that effect. It's like,
it's like 497, right? Mommy and the gay.
The fact that it's terrible to wonder if you're really with the guy.
There's Mommy and the Otis
elevator guy,
elevator person. It's terrible, and then Mommy and the gay man that would do it.
It would be so. Again, last week you had, I think I listened to it this morning, which is why it's really fresh. You asked. I get because it was last week. It was this morning for me. So you said something about like you could do a whole graduate thesis on this book.
Yeah.
And it would be fascinating to really sit down with this book, and with like you would need Excel, you need charts, like the way that words crop up in the movements, the way that like her tangents change. You were saying this section feels particularly unhinged. There's a lot more just sound play, words sounding off of each other. Her tick of correcting herself has lessened. There was a couple seconds ago her tick of like, no, I mean this, not that. I mean this, not that. I mean this, not that. That has lessened in this section. Early on, for at one point there was a lot of references to things being black and white, not in terms of like an expression, just in terms of actually calling things black and white. That has now like disappeared. So it would be really, really interesting to sit with this book and actually like word count wise, not word count, word use, like specific words, specific phrases, specific ticks that are used and in movements, and then that rise and fall throughout the book. I forget why I started this little ramble, because it was was a movement in this section that was not in previous sections.
It reminds me, I'm going to see if I can make this connect. I don't know that it does, but it reminds me of this essay I just read on Thomas Pynchon's Against the Day. That's about mappability and how Pynchon plays with the idea of like, if something's mappable, it's controllable. So like frequently he likes the characters in like situations which things can evade the mapping, because if you can evade that, then you are anarchist and free, more or less. Like I'm really simplifying this.
Yeah.
And I don't know who to credit because I don't remember who wrote it, but that idea, like I wonder, like in here, like the idea of mapping the thoughts or whatever seems even more charged, because I feel like a lot of mapping is very patriarchal, or is like part of that sort of capitalist patriarchy system of like mapping things. Mm-hmm. Pynchon one is like to upend specifically the capitalist one, but I wonder if this does have those kind of the maps of the words or the sounds or the sort of ideas, but is also evading that in some way as how she's kind of getting out of those trappings, or she's not.
Well, I know. Go ahead.
You got it.
Oh, I know like two vocabulary words. One of them is like you can write a story or a book that's arboresque, which is like a tree, right? The roots are going to match the branches. What's above is going to match what's below. And then with like Pynchon or David Foster Wallace, for instance, with their big books, they're more rhizomic, which would be like mushrooms, where they just stuff pops up almost at random, and you can't map it as neatly and nicely as a root system and like a trunk and branch system.
Yeah. And
there's parts of this that feel somewhat rhizomic in the same kind of way, where stuff is just popping up. Pop, pop, pop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A thing I like about that is that there are links there are links between themes and whatevers and ideas and phrases that are almost certainly, Lucy Ellmann, intentional mastermind, planning all of this shit. And then it is a book that really lends to you, the reader, drawing your links. So if you have this map, you can see like, okay, this is every phrase, this is every movement, this is every little session, and the way the book actually moves them. And then you would have your own links, the personal things you bring to the book, the emotions you brought, the moods you brought, whatever, and you'd be drawing all these links, and they'd be there. As a reader, you can make up some over-interpreted interpretations.
Yeah.
And this book really just lends itself to your interpretation works. It fits. It flows. Go. There's freedom, and it's not just chaotic, postmodern, postmodern, everything, whatever you interpret is fine.
Yeah.
There's something else healthy here. There's a healthy fucking environment, ecosystem in this book.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that one of the things with like a reader response theory problem is that there are like, you can bring a lot of things to a book, but like there are certain limits that like either you're just like you're not going to find like pure racism and part of the narrator approving race. There are things that are off that are not here. But there's like so much that's added that allows you to, like you're saying, like make connections that you want to make, or like find things that, like the things that I'm underlining are things that like sumac that I like, oh, I just got that 2 days ago and I had never purchased this spice in my life. And like, it just shows up in this book like 2 days later. I'm like, okay, that's kind of weird.
Yep.
But like,
I mean, the
Bitter
popping up in my life thing.
Bitter Meinhof syndrome, where like once you notice a thing, you're going to always notice it, sort of.
Yeah. And I mean, there's so much in this book that yes, you're constantly.
Can you imagine reading this book while you're pregnant and stoned? The other thing I was going to say.
I've read a lot of this while I'm stoned.
That's the way to do it.
That's the way to do it. It works. The other thing I was going to say about the patterns and stuff is that I think we brought this up on an earlier episode of the Jane Ellison, like meander, spiral, explode, spiral, meander, explode.
Yes. I need to read that like more and more. I'm like, I need to read that book.
The book is definitely double thumbs up, but this book does have like various elements, but there is the cyclical part of it too, of like what you were saying before we started, that like certain things are repeating and that they're coming up and coming up and coming up, which does happen. Like, I don't know how many times I've had conversations with people that like we sort of circle back to the same thing, and in my head it happens a lot more frequently.
Yeah,
like this is how much I'm loving this book. I took a recipe for chicken stock and I made it. I made it in my house.
Shit.
That's awesome.
And it does smell a little bit, but it's really good chicken stock. And
that's
then like,
awesome.
Then it shows up 100 pages later, like 200 pages later, that people are sick. She has to make her own chicken stock.
Yeah.
She gives the recipe again. She tells that Leo doesn't like the smell. Like all those repetitions of like, yeah, I've lived this. I've done this because of
you. You never know when it's gonna pan out. Like you see you see connections, and you're like, is she good with it? Is that fair? What is happening? Like in this section, she talks about being on like a rowboat or something with her family, or I don't know what. And I'm just like, is it gonna flip? Like, is there gonna be a repeat of Julie Andrews not rescuing a drowning child? Like, does her consciousness tie this, or is this just my consciousness?
Becky.
Books that warp your thinking are the best books. Books where your thinking starts to be like this weird, your personal version of the thinking of the book. Get in my own fucking head for a minute. Put me in someone else's head.
I like one of my favorite lines I just accidentally flipped up into is on 538. The fact that Daddy once told me he'd gone over Niagara Falls in a barrel, and I believed it for years, even though he hardly ever even took us to the zoo. And even though he wasn't very athletic, the fact I thought it was just something dads do: go over Niagara Falls in a barrel. Dad near Niagara Falls. Nope. not gonna happen.
That was funny. But also, again, like, okay, so this book is 1,000 pages of one person's consciousness, plus some, maybe 10 pages total of a mountain lion. But it's not solipsistic at all. Like, it's not. I mean, she does a lot of thinking about herself, yes, but everyone does. She does a lot of thinking about the overall country, the overall world. She does a ton of thinking about individuals and they are thinking or going through or not, and trying to understand them. And so you start to do because she's doing that. You make movements yourself. I reached that and I was like, okay, was her dad fucking with her, or did her dad make a dumbass joke that he didn't know she took seriously and started obsessing over her? Like, when he said, I went over Niagara Falls in a barrel, and when she walked away, did he know she believed him? Or did he just assume that she knew he was joking and move on? Because that happens with kids and parents.
Kids believe all sorts of nonsense.
Well, there is a theme here.
I know.
In this section where, like, children are very impressionable in what you say to them or do to them. There's the gym that was screaming, "You're an idiot," or "You're a moron," or whatever, right? Like, that affects kids and how they grow. I think it's part of that kind of whatever that theme line was. Like, that's part of it. It's a Wonderful Life.
It's a Wonderful Life. So we were literally like, to tie this all together, we're on this page and it has Jimmy Stewart Best in It's a Wonderful Life, which is the play that Chloe's in right now.
We're just making
fun of her for it. Like, it's probably scarred her.
Yeah, probably scarred his teenage daughter.
Totally fine. But also, I mean, she also hates me and like wishes that his dad is fine. It's fine.
The book also gets at how kids can hurt their parents. Like, as a kid, you don't get it. Because even if you do get it, you get it in the wrong way. There's a section in here, I forget what it was. So she is talking about her relationship with her mother.
Yes. This is where I wanted to go
and
for our last little bit here too.
Yeah, so she says, she talks about getting her mother's a gift that probably failed. No, the fact that mommy gave me some book about a mouse and I never read it, but it seemed too serious. And then she worries about giving books to her kids. The fact that it just seems awful to me now, Purple Urchins, that I probably wouldn't be hurt if my kids didn't read some book I gave them. So it's this weird moment where she is understanding that as a kid she worried about hurting her mother, but probably worried about that in the wrong ways. And so that her kid, Stacy particularly, who hurts her, probably does not grasp the way she hurts her. And I immediately, because it's a book that is intellectually brilliant as it is also emotional and personal. And so you start to do those things yourself, which really is my favorite type of book. I immediately flash back to a very minor but always memorable conversation with my mother when I was, I don't know how old, coming up on Christmas. I needed to tell her that I did not like the Power Rangers anymore. And I was legitimately worried about how that would hurt her because it was a change in me. I as an adult, I can't grasp what I actually worried would hurt her. I can come up with theories that she had already bought something, so that's pain, or that I'm growing up, so that's pain. But I was legit a child worried about hurting mother's feelings because I didn't want Power Rangers for Christmas anymore. And then looking back as an adult, you're like, no, there are way worse ways that I hurt my mother's feelings. Like, there are way more ways I hurt my mother than not wanting Power Rangers anymore. So just how she works this whole emotional dynamic with family is it's astounding. I mean, it's her relationship with her mother, it's her relationship with her father, it's her perception of her kids' relation. It's her feelings about her kids' relationship with her. It's her theorizing about what her kids are going through. It's her relationship with Leo. It is it's an emotional achievement while being this massive intellectual achievement.
I'm gonna just go on a limb.
Dealing with mothers being ill is a thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna go on a limb, and the fact that you have that level of thought and care and concern for how you're treating your mother, I'm gonna go on a limb and say you probably didn't sexually assault a woman in college, like Casey Affleck or something.
I did not sexually assault a woman in college or after college.
Oh my God!
Just to be very explicit about this.
She uses a lot of movie examples. Here's a great movie example of like kids and their parents. In 1996, my father took me to this awesome theater we had in the Bay Area that had like 1,000 seats. It's a ginormous theater. It's amazing. And we watched Independence Day, right? Terrible film, but it's a cool film when you're a little kid. No, when you're a little kid, like this is the most amazing movie. Like I had the greatest time with my dad watching Independence Day in 1996. All right. Same thing. Summer of 1997. My dad wants to take me to see Men in Black. Same theater. And I just say, Dad, can you drop me off at the corner? I'll just walk to the theater by myself.
Ooh,
right?
Yeah.
Like, what happens in that one? I remember watching Independence with my dad, and it was like the most wonderful, amazing thing. And then a year later, I'm this little shit that Dad, I don't want, like, all my friends are going to be here. I don't want to be there with you.
Yeah.
Like, how awful and miserable am I as a kid to do that? And that's a 1 year difference, right?
That's intense. Like, yeah.
And like, but as a kid, you cannot imagine that has hurt your father.
Yeah, I was more worried, like, oh, I don't want to be embarrassed. Like, I love you, Dad, but like, I got to be my own person right now.
I mean, on the upside, like, it seems more relevant because your parents are cool. Like, my parents are weird, so I didn't want to be around them at all. Like, it was like it was self-protection. Like, it was
Yeah.
There is, though, going to this, and I'll let you do I mean, you sort of half talked about it before or talked about it or whatever, but the fact that this section is one of the ones where, God, I just said it without even thinking about it, about her mom dying, and is like real intense, where she's like, I should have moved in with her. I should have done these things. Or I could have been there. Even like this line that I underlined that seems so, this one fucked me up last night too. The fact that after Mommy got sick, I read the phone book just to feel more alienated. Like the mother dying part is really intense. And like the parent dying, her dad dies, then her mom dies. I think I have that right. But they die right next to each other. I think her dad dies first, but they're one after the other. And it really like fucks her up. And that I have not had to deal with as a person yet, and I wish I never would have to. But like, as she keeps saying throughout here, like, that's in the end, everyone loses. Everyone will.
I mean, so I'm trying to find.
Because
so 588.
Yeah, uplifting. No dead
588. The fact that we're all going to be nuked any day now, and that'll be the end of it. But I still don't get why I neglected the person I miss all the time. The fact that I'm probably neglecting somebody else right now that I'm going to miss like crazy after they're gone. Two things that, like, first, that's just incredibly painful. I mean, first, you automatically have to start to wonder who you've done that to, who you might do that to. What can you do about that? Can you do anything about that? Probably not. You can still try. But the subtle thing in that little section that I like is she spells crazy correctly there. It's not crazy with T's.
Yeah.
Because she's not being at all playful or clever or fun or gamey or emphasizing on being, like, she's not being Midwestern crazy. Oh, crazy! It's, you actually miss that person like more than you can deal with. And so the overlap where things just, the map where you can't make a real map, you can't make a concrete map where everything is separate and perfect and neat and organized. Everything gets weird and messy in return, is that, when I'm having a personal reaction to motherhood and her mother's death, is so she is writing a bunch about her mother's death, but she also from time to time talks about her own illness as a mother, a mother being ill and how that affected her family and her kids. The personal reaction is that my mother died a year ago next Wednesday. And she was ill from me being in high school on, pretty much. And so it's been a fun way to legit nice way to have a response to that. I spend a lot of time avoiding things, and reading is a time where I pretend I'm avoiding things and usually encounter what I think I'm avoiding, and then actually kind of have some time to deal with it.
Yeah.
This has been that. This has been a time to process my relationship with my mother and my relationship with illness and with death. And then that's part of that thing. Like, oh, wait, I hurt her, but not holding on to it. Like, okay, yeah, like, kids end up hurting their parents. Like, that's that. Now, what can I do with that? How can I move forward with that? How can I think about that in a productive way? Because as much as the book is ranty and rambling and anxious and neurotic, it's trying to do something. It's like the narrator's trying to do something. Lucy Ellmann is trying to do something, and it's telling us to do something. whether it's think about things and process it, or just bake some fucking pies. Because there's a line in this section where she feels shitty about that all she does is bake some pies. And that's how she feels. But that's not the conclusion we should draw. Because that's what we just have to do sometimes, is just bake some fucking pies and it can matter. We can record a stupid podcast and it can be something.
There's so many things to react to that. I feel like there's a line in there somewhere where she refers to it being like, well, I'm just sitting here making pies, but no one will ever tell me that. Like, I feel guilty even though nobody's telling me to feel guilty.
Yes.
I don't know where that is.
You imagine the world is making you feel guilty, but it's just you, and you need to deal with that.
Yeah, and I feel like that. Like, I get that feeling 100%.
I know you do.
One of the big lines that stood out to me on 488 is the fact that you get no warning about the most important things in life. Like right before she talks about her mom passing away, it is very intense. There was one other thing I was going to relate to that. Oh, I know what it was. One of the things that we haven't talked about in here, I don't think, I mean, maybe we have, but is that there's two layers of this that are going on at least simultaneously. There's the sort of existential life question that's being posed of how do you exist in the world when you're aware of all the evil, and like all this recurring thing of are you evil, are you evil, are you evil shows up a million times in here. I don't know what that's a quote from at all, or if it is a quote from something, but it comes up a lot. And this idea of like things being bad on a metaphysical level. And then there's the very practical side of it where she says like, you're going to get cancer and you're going to not only just die, but you're not going to be able to pay the medical bills. And there's like the very practical bit that comes up over and over and over again as well. And those two things are simultaneously working on the characterization of their narrator on the whole thing.
The moms were all smiling. The fact that their kids were school shooters, the fact that they said they were glad God and the police protect their kids from school shooters. Gug. The fact that actually God and the police fail 30,000 Americans a year and nobody saves you from the medical bills. The fact that first you're crippled by a bullet and then by what it costs to fish it out.
Yep.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Yep.
Giving birth.
What do you like?
Preach.
What?
Preach.
Preach.
Back in frame.
Like, I had this moment. I laughed. I'm in public and I laughed at that. And if anyone asked me what I'm laughing at, the fact that we're all fucked, like on every possible level, but also we're fine. We're kind of fine, I think.
Yeah, there's this grave thing my wife's in medicine, and she was telling me like the best thing you could have for like protecting your family and your kids is it's not open carry, just carry a tourniquet.
Yeah.
Like that's the best thing you can do with you is a way to just try to stop the bleeding more so than shooting back or like because you feel like it was just like this most like terrible grave like first responder response is like no, like you want to live in this world, like find a way to stop the bleeding as quick as possible. It's just brutal and awful to think about.
So not about her.
Yeah.
Which is what makes that such a sad and wonderful thing, is that's not her thinking of herself at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of us, when we think about shit being bad, think about ourselves.
Mm.
And that's not even shaming that, that's pretty natural. That's really just being like, well, that's admirable on her part. Because I mean, I've been sitting here thinking about buying a gun. Bad.
Yeah. I thought
things are really bad.
When you lived in Vermont, don't you get one at the age of like 12?
Yeah, but I wasn't in Vermont.
Only New Hampshire. New Hampshire is the gun state, right?
Wait, which state is live?
No, Vermont is definitely a gun state. I mean, we don't.
Isn't it?
I don't know. What's your guys' state motto? Smoke it, burn it down.
Smoke it.
No. It's something stupid. New Hampshire is like live free or die.
Yeah,
But Vermont,
Yeah,
Vermont gun laws.
Yeah.
New Hampshire.
I mean, but Vermont laws are basically non-existent.
So you should get a gun and vote for Sanders. That's a weird state.
Let's put it this way. I worked in a restaurant a while, and at one point, a guy walked in with a suitcase, and the restaurant owner gave him cash, and the guy left, and the restaurant owner had just bought a gun, and that was a legal transaction.
Oof.
Like, this guy walked in the kitchen of a restaurant with a suitcase and gave someone it, and that person gave him cash money, and that was a purchase of a firearm.
Dude, I've seen New York doing better all the time.
I'm gonna teach it. Gas it up, burn it down. That's my new motto. Gas it up, burn it down. Make it habitual.
I mean, this all just reminds me that if I weren't recording this podcast right now, I'd be very stoned playing Red Dead Redemption 2 and probably shooting people. So this is a better expression of my personality and my intelligence, I think.
Oh dear, Patrick. So we should probably start wrapping this up. Do you have a favorite line from this section?
I mean, they're all favorite lines.
I have one marked.
I have some marked, but I cannot emphasize enough how brilliant and fun this book is. Like, how much
really love it. Like, every time I wait till it's weird to read it for this in a way, because I'm like, don't read it for like a week, and then I'm like, oh shit, I have to read it. Like, we're doing the podcast tomorrow, so I'll just read it all in one night, and I'll be like, it's gonna be like 100 pages, it's gonna take forever, and then I start reading, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. This is like a very emotional, very fun thing. At some point, I feel like I'm really not living the best life. Like, it's like the blurb
for this book would be like, for me, like, I am recommending the shit out of this book. Like, I keep telling you, like, what are you reading? What do you like? Oh, Ducks Newburyport. Like,
just go for it.
Really, you've got to read it.
On every level, it's what I want from my reading time.
Yep.
There's nothing I look for reading that this doesn't provide me except spaceships.
Can I make a hot take? Can I make a hot quasi-drunken take? Is that this and Baron Weckheimer's Crash to Harkai book are on my shelf. Both these things, I love Crash to Harkai. I love his books. Absolutely. Both of these have been on my shelf to read for months, and I would prefer to read this right now.
Oh my god, I haven't even touched Baron Wertheimer yet, and I love Laszlo with all my fucking heart. But I've seen Laszlo. Like, not only have I read him before, I've seen other versions of him that aren't as good. I haven't read Lucy Ellmann before, and I also haven't read versions of her that aren't as good.
And also, a woman's perspective. Others' perspective right now is really good. It's very
So when I'm gonna get to my favorite quote, but when you asked me if I wanted to be on the podcast, one of the first things I knew is like, I want to talk about that. Is how much I love that this book is like everything people have clamored for right now. Like before this book came out, we've been hearing that women, like, oh, no one wants, like, long, complicated novels are written by old white men, and fuck that. Like, we don't want long, big, complicated novels because that's what all men write, so fuck it. Everyone has been clamoring for this book. Everyone, without knowing this book existed, everyone has been clamoring for a book. Everyone wants a woman writing about America. Everyone wants a woman writing about everything that is happening in our world. Everyone wants a woman who's an insane genius, who's also difficult and complicated as every insane, difficult, complicated man. Everyone has been wanting like a big, long, fucking complicated book from a woman because it's different for us. Everyone's everything that people have been clamoring for and inciting other things. This is the kind of negative side of it is everything that people have been slamming in certain types of books that I think are great, because it's not specific to this other thing, which this becomes. This is it. This is it. This is what people have been wanting. We have books that are overpraised. Like a book comes out massively overpraised, and it's overpraised because people want it to be as good as want it to be great. They want it to be intellectually complex. They want it to be written by a woman. They want it to be about the female perspective that we don't get enough of at all. And then I read it, and I'm like, okay, it's good, but y'all praised it way too much, and it's not as good as you want it to be. But that's why you want it is good. This is as good as everyone wants it to be. This is better than everyone wants it to be. You struggle to actually define and like articulate how brilliant this book is. So that's that. Someone asked me when they saw me reading it, like the cover copy, like nothing you've ever read before. Someone was like, "Is that true?" Like in that very like, when the fuck is that actually true? When the fuck is that actually true? It's actually true.
Oh shit! I had a point before this, but I forget what it is.
What?
Your line, Patrick.
I'm getting there. Goddamn.
You're hamming it up.
Come on.
I am, because I like this book a lot.
You're not Ben.
I don't have enough to do with my life. So
That's going to make a bad cultural reference.
I think I started to put this one, but I'm still going to do with it. But mommy was the cat's pajamas, and I neglected her. The fact that I can't just live with that, but I do live with it. The fact that my only strategy is to never think about it, but it's the truth. The smell of rain, the fact that what right do I have to think about her all of the time? When I neglected her when she's still around. The fact that I don't deserve to think about her. The fact that I don't deserve the memories I have of her. Lilies of the valley, neglected, negligent, chickens, geosmin, petrichor, Andrew Schaefer, Vermont, failure, fear of failure.
You picked a Vermont reference.
Who's Andrew Schaefer?
Yeah, I did. I fucking did. Don't even get up. Is Rochester in this book? Rochester is not in this book.
Garbage place car.
Garbage place car. Garbage place car. Shut your fucking mouth.
Garbage place car.
Fuck you.
Also, I do you guys know who Andy Schaefer is? Is that in the book? Because I googled Andy Schaefer, and the top Google result was Google Books quote from this book, and it was one result, the only result Andy Schaefer in this book being this moment. I don't know who the fuck that is or what the fuck that.
So I don't know. That's why I asked. That's why I said that question. But I kind of feel like there are names like where she's like my school friend Mary Sue or whatever it was, or Bobby Sue Bobby. That's not her name. Yeah. Bobby Sue. But I feel like there are ones that are just references for the character.
Okay. Yeah.
Because otherwise, the texture wouldn't work. If everything was something that we all knew, the texture would be off. In terms of
right.
the narrator's voice. But regardless, my favorite line for this one is 555. The fact that you don't have to call people names because they don't like the same movies as you. Dear me, the fact that everybody's just so antagonistic these days and it's catching. The fact that it's hard to resist picking up bad habits. The fact that everybody's like this now, always flipping out, flip side. The fact that there's always a flip side, flipping a Tatine upside down, tossing a coin, the flip from asleep to awake, flip from night to day, dream to reality, waxing and waning, black and white, male and female, cowboys and Indians, sea and land, peanut butter and jelly, oil and vinegar, pouring oil on troubled waters, ... Have
you ever made it?
Yeah, I underlined that section. I considered it.
I've made several before.
No shit.
Before I even read this book. And
I don't make dessert.
There is this moment of truth. Like, so you cook it in a pan, and the caramelization takes place in the pan, and the dough is on the top. And you have this moment of truth where you got to flip that shit over, see if it works, and it either works or it doesn't. And it is like, it is a moment of tension. And it usually ends up bad unless you know what you're doing. So I identify with this one. So all this, I'm a big cooker. Like I love all the cooking.
I do not like baking. I like cooking.
Yeah.
I only like making food that has no sugar involved.
So mine, I picked just based off of sound. I thought it sounded so good. I mean, again, it's about her mother, and again, it's capital M, mommy, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about mom. Page 499 at the very, very bottom. The fact that mommy was also briefly engaged to some gay guy, maybe on the rebound from the elevator guy. The fact that she never said much about the gay guy, except she thought they could be happy together, but he broke it off. The fact that the whole thing collapsed somehow, but amicably. But they remain friends in a distant sort of way. The fact that I don't think she saw him many more times, but she always thought kindly of him. Cigarette. Not that the Otis guy pen, peaches and cream, book, sunglasses, Lake Michigan, inner tube. The fact that I forgive the gay guy, but I'd like to wring the Otis elevator guy's neck. But after I finish shaking the nun, the fact that I know, I don't say such things, but I think so. How dare you dump my mother? Like, the sound of this freaking book is
so good.
Good. It is a torrent of consciousness, but it is. I'm never lost. I'm never felt like I'm swept away in it. I'm always grounded. It is a brilliant move by Lucy to write this book. I'm so impressed with it.
I'm gonna subvert our ending and give one last thing on the page right next to that.
Sure.
On 501, the fact that you'd think that with 4 kids you could just divide your love up between them in quarters. So if you lost one, it wouldn't be so bad. Safety in numbers, but instead the love gets quadrupled, leaving you with 4 times the anxiety, 4 times the sense of helplessness, 4 times the after-school activities and all. The fact that people with no kids seem to free to me now. The fact that I half envy them sometimes, though I know I shouldn't say so. The fact that nobody ever tells them the terror of what could happen to your kids cripples your life. The fact that all mothers are going through this all the time, I think, but we never talk about it, is one of the ones that I thought was yeah, that's where that voice is coming from too. Yep. Of I mean, I feel surrounded by mothers of anxiety or parents of anxiety, and nobody talks about any of that.
No one. We don't want to talk about how fucking terrified we want to talk about how angry we are. We want to talk about big things, but just the constant sheer terror and the fact that other people can be a lot more terrified than we are. We don't want to deal with it. Well, what was that?
I tried to respond to one of the people who are commenting on the YouTube, and I totally mistyped everything.
No, it worked fine actually.
You're right, it did actually.
Yeah.
So Chris asked, recently Ellmann said that she wants a peaceful revolution that leads to matriarchy. Anyone in? And I said, I am N. But I meant to put I am in, but I reposted it. But I am in makes.
I bet he understood that. I bet he was able to add that I.
I am not in. I don't want it to be peaceful. I want a bunch of people to die.
Listen, Brian. I don't want people to die, but some people do need to die.
I want to. Revolutions require a little bit of violence.
A little bit of violence.
I'm okay with that because there's a lot.
This is us just being men.
You're just trying to balance this up, man. Yeah, you're just trying to balance this up like that.
I don't want Donald Trump Jr. to get up with me or his father or whatever.
The fact that it's getting so that it's surprising when men don't shoot their exes.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
No, I'm all about peace, love, and understanding. Believe me. But
yeah.
I mean, yeah.
There's some white dudes with $1 billion that gotta go. I'm just saying.
Yeah. If you could. Okay. Not gonna say this on YouTube. Hey, thank you. Where can we find you, Patrick?
I'm on Twitter at ptsmith _VT and Instagram on Green Mountain Rambler.
Green Mountain Rambler. All one word.
It's what?
All one word.
There's underscore somewhere in there. I don't really know where. I think it's between word.
You're bad at promotion, Patrick. I'm just gonna put this.
Yeah, I'm bad at a lot of things, Chad. Thank you.
We are all very bad at things. I'm bad at parenting, 100%. And that's way more important than being bad at knowing your Instagram handle.
I'm a good dog dad, and that's about it.
I don't think I'm good at anything. Okay, so next week we're going to go over another section of this book up to a point, which I don't know because I didn't look it up. But we're going to go probably to page 580 something. That seems about right. And
it does seem about right.
We will be back then. We only have we're halfway through it. We're more than halfway through now. So we will end before the end of the year and we'll get there. And I think things are going to shift. I have a theory. We'll see if it plays out. So till next week, Brian, where can we find you?
I am in Rochester, New York. Just Google Joytime Killbox.
Nobody else uses that title.
Yeah.
Awesome. Joytime Killbox.
All joy time, all time, all joy, all kill.
Great. So, okay, let me say, I don't know. So